This is the racing ladder.
The professional stories behind NASCAR's biggest careers.
From the bottom of the ranks to the top of the Cup Series. How they rose, who they drive for, and what it takes to win.
With Oro Quintana
And Cole Vega.
The climb starts now. The climb starts now.
Some drivers chase a championship. Greg Biffle chased the entire climb, then spent his last years lifting the next racer up it. This is the Biff. There are drivers who are handed a ride. And there are drivers who build the car, load the trailer, and drive through the night to a short track just for the chance to be seen. Greg Biffle was the second kind. He never won a Cup Series championship. He'll tell you that himself, it was the one rung at the very top he could never quite grab. But look at everything below it. A truck title, an Xfinity title, 19 wins at the sport's highest level. He is the only driver in history to win championships in both of NASCAR's development series and finish runner-up in the Cup Series. Nobody climbed more of this ladder than the man they called the Biff. And when the racing was over, he found a way to climb even higher. Greg Biffle came from Vancouver, Washington. About as far from the heart of stock car country as an American racer can get. There was no family fortune, no famous last name, no pipeline to the big leagues. What there was a work ethic. Before he was ever a professional driver, Biffle was a chassis builder and a fabricator, a guy who bent and welded metal for a living. At 19, he co-founded his own little race shop, building cars so he could afford to race them himself. That's how badly he wanted it. He didn't wait for the sport to find him. He funded his own climb, one weekend at a time, on the short tracks of the Northwest. Then came the winter of 1995 into 96, and a small, nationally televised series out west. Biffle didn't just run well in it, he dominated it. And somewhere in the grandstands and the broadcast booth was a Hall of Famer named Benny Parsons. A former champion turned commentator who had a gift for spotting the ones who were about to break through. Parsons picked up the phone and called his friend Jack Roush. The way Biffle told the story years later, there was no test, no resume, no audition. Roush had missed out on another driver for one of his trucks, and Parsons simply told him not to forget about that kid out in Washington. Roush made the call, and a fabricator from Vancouver became a Roush driver, the start of a partnership that would last unbroken for the rest of his career. Biffle wasted no time proving Parsons right. In 1998, his first full season in the Truck Series, he was named Rookie of the Year. The very next year, he went on a tear that people still talk about, winning 9 races in a single season and setting a record that would stand for more than 2 decades, until a young star finally broke it. And when that record fell, all these years later, Biffle was one of the first people to reach out and offer congratulations. That was him. Then, in the year 2000, he put it all together, 5 wins, a season-long championship run. It was the first NASCAR national title of Greg Biffle's life. It was also the first NASCAR championship Jack Roush had ever won in that series. The kid who built his own cars was now a champion. One rung up. Most drivers, moving up a level, need time to adjust. Biffle needed almost none. He jumped to what was then the Busch Series, today's Xfinity Series, and immediately took Rookie of the Year in 2001. One season later, in 2002, he did it again. Series champion, 4 wins, 25 top 10 finishes, and a level of consistency that told everyone in the garage exactly what kind of driver they were dealing with. And with that title, Greg Biffle made history. He became the first driver ever to win championships in both the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. 2 development titles, back-to-back tiers. from a guy nobody in the Southeast had heard of a few years earlier. By 2003, there was nowhere left to go but the top. Biffle moved up to the Cup Series full-time, and he announced himself the way he did everything, without asking permission. In just his rookie season, at the sport's most famous track, he took the lead late and won the summer race at Daytona. A rookie in Victory Lane at Daytona International Speedway. His masterpiece came in 2005. 6 wins, a career-best runner-up finish in the championship, chasing the great Tony Stewart all the way to the final race. There was a stretch there where Biffle looked like the best driver in the sport, period. He won the season finale at Homestead 3 years, running a level of dominance at one track that very few drivers ever touch. Here's the quirk that defines his Cup career, though. Every single one of his 19 wins came on tracks a mile or longer. The short tracks, the very places he'd come up on, never gave him a Cup trophy. It's the kind of statistical riddle that follows a great driver around forever. His final Cup win carried extra weight. In 2013, at Michigan, his best track anywhere, Biffle drove to Victory Lane and delivered Ford's 1,000th win in NASCAR history. Of all the drivers who could have scored that milestone, it was the loyal one. The one who stayed with Roush through the good years and the lean ones and never went looking for a better seat. He stepped back from full-time racing after 2016, then popped up here and there helping friends, running a final Daytona 500 in 2022. When the numbers were all counted, they were staggering for a self-made kid from Vancouver. 56 wins across NASCAR's 3 national series, 842 national starts, 2 championships, a place among NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers of all time. The one thing he never got was the Cup. But ask anyone who raced him, the missing trophy never dimmed the man. The most important thing Greg Biffle ever did came after the checkered flag stopped, when he traded the race car for a helicopter and became a lifeline. Long before the world saw the humanitarian, there was already a quieter Greg Biffle, the one whose foundation had rescued thousands of shelter dogs over the years, without a camera in sight. But it was the autumn of 2024 that revealed who he really was. When Hurricane Helene tore through the southern Appalachians, whole mountain towns were cut off, roads gone, power gone, families stranded on ridgelines with no way in or out. Greg Biffle was a licensed pilot, so he did the only thing that made sense to him. He started flying. He ran helicopter sortie after helicopter sortie into the worst of it, hauling food, water, and supplies to people the rest of the world couldn't reach. He helped bring in Starlink units so cut-off communities could call for help. On one flight, he spotted a stranded family, only because they'd flashed a mirror at the sun to catch his eye. He even flew in an Easter bunny and 1,000 Easter eggs for kids who'd lost nearly everything. It was so far beyond the call that the Motorsports press honored him for it in 2024. And he didn't stop at one disaster when another storm battered Jamaica. Biffle answered again. The race car had made him known. The helicopter made him loved. And it was in that second act, in the middle of all that flying, that Greg Biffle met a younger man who was about to change the last chapter of his life. Garrett Mitchell is better known to millions as Cleetus McFarland, a wildly popular motorsports creator with his own racetrack and a growing hunger to become a real stock car driver. The two met through the relief flights and a shared sponsor. And the moment they did, something just clicked. They bonded over the least likely things, their families first, and then helicopters and old Crown Victorias, of all things. Mitchell would later say he'd never met anyone else on Earth who shared both of those loves. He didn't know Biffle long, barely a year and a half, but he said it felt like meeting a version of himself. And Biffle did for Mitchell exactly what Benny Parsons had once done for him. He became the mentor, not a formal coach, an accidental one. the kind that happens naturally between two people who just like being around each other. Biffle started teaching him how to drive a stock car. He opened doors, brought in partners, and quietly began pulling Mitchell up onto the very ladder he'd spent his whole life climbing. Mitchell started racing for real, running in the ARCA ranks, the true bottom rung of the professional climb. And the two of them had a plan for what came next. They were going to race together. Biffle was going to line up alongside his friend at Talladega, teacher and student, on the same track at last. The old climber, reaching a hand back down for the next one up. On the morning of December 18th, 2025, Greg and his family took off from Statesville, North Carolina, headed for Florida, headed for a visit with Garrett and his family, the kind of ordinary, joyful afternoon that friends plan without a second thought. The plane never reached them. It went down near the airport, and 7 lives were lost that morning. Greg, his wife, Christina, his children, Emma and Ryder, and friends who were traveling with them. He was 55 years old, 1 week shy of his birthday. The man who had flown into other people's worst days to bring them home did not make it home himself. There is no way to make that easy, so we won't try. We'll only say that a sport, a mountain region full of people he'd rescued, and a friend who'd found a brother in him, all stopped at once. In the days after, Garrett Mitchell sat in front of a camera and did the hardest video of his life, a tribute to the friend he'd known for barely 18 months and would miss for the rest of his own. He promised his audience that Biffle's presence on his channel and in his racing would live on. He gave himself a new sign-off, 3 words he now carries into every race he runs: be like Biff. Because that's the thing about a ladder. The whole point of climbing it is so that someone behind you can climb it too. Greg Biffle was named to NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. He earned his place on the Hall of Fame ballot. He won on dirt and asphalt, in trucks and in cup cars, across almost 2 decades at the front. But his real masterpiece wasn't a trophy. It was a young driver, now climbing the ARCA ranks with Biffle's lessons in his hands and Biffle's name on his lips, proof that the climb never really ends. It just gets handed to the next person willing to make it. The Biff never got his cup. He got something rarer. He got to be the reason somebody else keeps going. Greg Biffle climbed every rung this sport has. Now his friend and brother, Cleetus McFarland, carries the torch up the next one. Be like Biff. I am Cole Vega for the Racing Ladder. Keep climbing.
This is the Racing Ladder.
The professional stories behind NASCAR's biggest careers.
From the bottom of the ranks to the top of the Cup Series. How they rose, who they drive for, and what it takes to win.
With Oro Quintana
And Cole Vega.
The climb starts now. The climb starts now.